Hey everybody, welcome to Obscurities in Miniatures, and it's Friday again, which means we bring to you another obscurity in literature, and with my usual luck, it's one that's out of print and hard to find, naturally. And that is part of the Ted McKeever library that Image put out a few years ago. And the first book in the series, obviously being Transit, his first major work. Now, this is an interesting one for a couple of reasons. Not everybody's super familiar with Ted McKeever's stuff. He's been around in the business for quite some years. Definitely a very unique style of artwork. And I'm kind of annoyed that we didn't get the full set of books that McKeever's put out. The one that I felt was missing is his big one I remember coming out at the time was Plastic Forks. That was like around the time I was getting into comics. But I remember, and one of the reasons I started picking these up was because of Metropole. Metropole was the one that really pulled me in. Eddie Current was pretty cool, and I never had a chance to actually read Transit. Transit was his first major work, like I said, and what's interesting is you see a lot of the beginnings and concepts that McKeever would really start to explore with his later stuff. Now, this is a little bit smaller than the average comic book. Let me just make that apparent from the beginning. Grabbing a regular sized trade. Good book, by the way. You can see here it is a bit smaller. And I don't really care for the binding. It didn't seem like the greatest binding job that we've seen. Comparing it with another classic book. We'll have to save that, I think, for another day. I don't think I've ever talked about Sam and Max, have I? You guys want to hear about Sam and Max? We can talk. Anyway, what was interesting about this, and if you guys are curious about some of the other books in the series, I will totally be down for doing some videos on the other ones. What struck me, and again, I had never seen the original issues. These were put out by Vortex Comics, I think, in the mid-'80s, is I swear to God, he had to have been looking through some Dr. Slump manga. Something about his early work. Just the poses, the faces, the facial expressions, but especially this panel right here, I swear to God, totally looks like he was channeling full-on Toriyama. I can't think of the main guy's name right now. The professor in Dr. Slump, the main guy with the mustache. I swear it looks like an early volume of it. The pose even. Look at the pose. The running, everything about this just screams he had to have had some major manga influence. It really feels like it. But once we get past this initial section, we start to get more into traditional McKeever art here. And while it is more of a normal story in terms of, well, I don't want to spoil too much, what's going on, and we have a witness to a murder, and it kind of goes from there. Even like the paneling, we've got just like these really dense pages. Feels like Keith Giffen, early Justice League stuff he was doing, being experimental there, Legions of the Superheroes, and then we start getting into these really dark blacks, and it feels very much like an experiment in artwork. You didn't see a lot of this in the mid-'80s. Now, this was designed as a black and white comic. We're starting to see more of the McKeeverisms of the very elongated faces. This is like issue 2 or 3. What I found interesting. Now, story has it that the original run was supposed to be a 10-issue series, but then got cut short. I never noticed a very Von Bode looking character there. The artwork looks just so different than what's to come later. I'm trying to think. There was a artist who was pretty prolific in heavy metal in the early 90s. I want to say it was either Italian or French. Had a somewhat similar style, very exaggerated features. Now you see some of the stuff that will be appearing in other McKeever books, especially with the whole, religious cults and, fending of the apocalypse. There's a lot of unexplained things, kind of a lot of loose ends here, but definitely some interesting stuff going on. Some of the artwork at times is hard to discern exactly what's going on, but there is a grittiness to this that, Frank Miller, I think, obviously was going to find later on down the line. Now, what's interesting is there's this little epilogue here at the very end that kind of covers everything after the fact. And you see much more of traditional McKeever artwork, which is crazy looking, people. But that's again, kind of an acquired taste, but definitely this feels like a product of its time. But it's quite unique in what it's trying to do. You didn't see a lot of art like that back in the day. And this absolutely feels like something, I want to say my other brother that lives in Japan, not Sparkle Trout. I think he's the first one who really turned me on to McKeever stuff. And again, I think it was through Plastic Forks, but I know he had Eddie Current because I know I remember reading that prior to collecting these in the McKeever library books. But if you guys are curious, definitely something to check out. It does feel a bit incomplete with the whole Lost finale. I think it was just kind of, tacked on at the very end. And I would have liked to have seen a full McKeever run. And that's kind of the unfortunate thing is every time he seems to really get into something, at least the stuff of his that I really enjoy, it always seems to get cut short. Metropole being my favorite with its whole apocalyptic, battle of the ages going on there. Originally got cut short, then got brought back, then got cut short. It just, it was a shame, but definitely some unique stuff. I'll put a link down below if you guys want to grab it on Amazon. There's always a few copies, it seems, floating around, but, don't pay an arm and a leg. And you could probably find the original issues in old back issue bins, but then again, they're getting kind of up there in the ages, so good luck with that endeavor. But yeah, fun stuff. Definitely a unique look for the time that it was released, and a nice slice of comic history with McKeever's Transit. So yeah, with that said, this has been High Lord Tamberlane with Obscurities and Miniatures, saying thanks for watching, and we will see you back here soon. Bye-bye.